more than likely the property is going to be the largest asset that they own together, and they're considering going apart on their own. So everybody's going to want a piece of the pie. And even if you separate, very, very, very important, there is no legal separation in the state of Florida. If you are not fully divorced, if that marital settlement agreement has not been signed and filed, you are married. There is no other status. You're married or divorced.
Welcome to another episode of Building Connections Doral Talks. I'm your host, Betty Gonzalez, coming to you live from the heart of Doral, Florida. Today, we are diving into episode 27 after a brief break that I took. And I'm thrilled to have Angela Banegas back with us, a seasoned title officer who's no stranger to our show. In today's episode, we're tackling some complex and crucial topics, navigating the choppy waters of divorce when intersecting with home ownership, understanding the dynamics of buying a property early in a marriage, and unpacking new challenges involving homeowners associations. So whether you're a homeowner thinking of buying or just fascinated by the ever-changing, evolving world of the real estate, you'll find invaluable insights in our discussion today. Angela will bring us a wealth of knowledge that will demystify the real estate buying process. Angela, thank you for coming and joining us this morning. Again, bringing us all of your wealth of knowledge throughout the years. Good morning.
Good morning. And it's always a pleasure. You and I get to talk so much. And this is just chatting with you about, title. It's awesome. I love it.
No, Angela. So like I was saying, it's a little, sometimes people take it for granted or they just don't understand it, but it is so complex. And I just wanted to start off by saying that, buying a house, it's a beautiful thing. However, you have to know, everything that involves, because as we wanted to call it happily ever after, it doesn't always end up that way. So there's a lot of stuff that come into play once you're married, not only to each other, but to a house, to a commitment, to a piece of land and property that now involves other legal, situations. And in this case, I wanted to bring to you this very weird, a strange situation. It was not a client of mine. However, she found me on the internet and she decided to reach out to ask for help, which, I try to help them as much as I could. However, I'm not a title officer, and I remember calling to you so that you could advise me so that I can actually give her some advice. And I thank you for that. That was outside of your scope of work, and you were kindly enough, telling me how to advise this person. So for the audience to have a little background on this person bought a property with her son. However, she was married, but the husband, correct me if I'm wrong, I said something wrong, Angela, was not on title or on the deed, one of the two. But because they're married in the state of Florida, they had to be part of the transaction. Is that correct?
Partially.
Okay, so then you're going to tell us. I'm just going to put that background of what I thought, and she was explaining to me, right? So this is why this is so fascinating, and I wanted to bring it to the show today because I'm pretty sure this is not one case, that a lot of people go through this. So she's no longer with this person and they're going through a divorce. However, something even more touchy, unfortunately, this person is going through a process of foreclosure due to problems in payment and whatnot. This person bought the house a long time ago, way before 2020, and now the house has appreciated. So they could potentially sell this property and probably get $200,000 to $300,000 worth of equity in this property, but she does not want to share the proceeds with this strange spouse that is trying to go through a divorce. So she was asking me, how can she not have him part of this transaction? And she was like, he's not in it. And I was like, yeah, I don't see him as the owner. I go through the taxes and the county website. She's the only owner showing with her son. The husband doesn't show anywhere there. However, in the actual paperwork that she sent me, it shows that she's married, but his name is not even there. So I don't know how it goes. So now I leave it up to you so that you can tell us a little bit more about that. This is complex.
So I'm going to use this scenario as my guide, but there's going to be caveats on every corner. There's going to be disclosures on every corner, because speaking on this scenario will go to show you how the change of the wind will change your strategy and how you have to handle things. And marriage is not just, love and fluttering hearts. It's legal. They say that, love, all is fair in love and war. Well, all is fair in property and profits. You may think you know somebody until they see a comma and a decimal in a certain place on a check, and then their feelings may change towards you. So, and not only that, but this is also where legality comes in. Your client, this particular scenario, if they were on the mortgage with just her and her son, showing her as a married woman, that's her legal marital status, then we'll assume, and I don't like to use that word, that the purchase was prepared properly, meaning that this is her second home. She is assisting her son in the purchase, because if this was a primary home purchase, the husband would have had to join in. That's if this was done properly. Having said that, if she claimed homestead on that home, on that property, at any time during the years that she owned it, her husband automatically now has an interest.
I'm glad you said that, Angela, because she did. I looked it up on the property taxes. And I went after you told me this, and I looked this up, and she had claimed homestead.
Now I have a question though, because while homestead was claimed on the property, there are two owners. Was the homestead the full 50,000 or was it 25? Because if it was 25 and the homestead was only claimed by her son, then she does not have homestead on the property, and it was not applied to her portion of interest, which would mean her spouse would not have interest. For example, if she owns her own primary property and has her homestead on that property and consistently has maintained that homestead, and the property that she owns with her son only has half of the homestead applied, that is appropriate. And that does not mean that her spouse will have interest, because the homestead benefits only were claimed by the son. So even though you see homestead, we still have to go a step further.
Oh, wow. So I did not do that, and I did not know that. So I'm just learning something new. We're going to have to talk about this. This is going to be another new episode.
These are the little things, and I'm going to tell you, knowing these little things in this scenario, title's black and white. Real estate, for the most part, is black and white. You bring a marriage into it, and it becomes something where people need to learn how to be strategic. You and I may know that homestead applies and gives the spouse a foot in the door. But if we're just giving advice as a layperson, clearly none of us have, a legal degree. But if we're giving this advice and we're letting these people know, you guys are amicable now, you're going to sell this, he may or may not want something. Maybe you offer him 5,000-10,000, because if he figures out that the homestead applies, he has the opportunity to legally pursue more.
Gotcha. Now, but this is the question it comes. That's if they're trying to pursue it. But if the other person just sell it and just offers some sort of compensation and they accept it, that will suffice.
Well, it's basically, if you agree, you can pretty much do anything you want. If you agree and you sign and you're not under duress and nobody can take you back and say that, you were holding somebody taped to a chair and forcing them to sign, then you've done nothing wrong. You came to the table. You both agreed to sell the property. It's fair to say that if you're not with somebody anymore, you're not with them for a reason. And I put this on both sides. If you walk into an office and you take the lead given to you by somebody who you're no longer with and haven't done your own due diligence, then shame on you. And so whenever we're speaking to somebody, we're speaking to them with their best interest in mind. Of course, there's another half of that story where somebody on the other side is going to feel as if they've been taken advantage of, if that's the case. If that's where I say playing strategic is a part of title like this. If you know all of your options and you have an end goal, then you know how to pursue them appropriately. And everything in Florida, also, you can sue anybody for anything. So, the moment you sign a contract is the moment that marriage and title become real. The contract is the start, and people don't even realize that is a legal binding document that begins your journey. So if you purchase the home and you do it as a single woman, I purchased my home as a single woman. I got married. Mm-hmm. However, I have continued to pay my own mortgage, and my husband has not done anything to bring any kind of upgrade to the house. He's not redone the cabinets for me. He's not a contractor and come in and knocked out walls. So he's not brought any benefit to the home. If and when we divorce, personal, I will not have to worry about him pursuing my property, because even though we both had homestead together because we were married and he did live here, I purchased it as a single woman, I maintained it, and he brought no benefit. So it is so specific to each scenario.
Got you. So going back to this scenario, so you said had this not been her second home, she would have to buy it with the husband. It would be like, right. The fact that she was able to buy it how she did it is that we are assuming that was her second property.
The way that the loan is set up, and appropriately so, if it was done, that it was all in the up and up and looks perfect, and that's what saves her on that end. Hoping that
about the homestead. So now going back to the homestead, when people are applying to the homestead, because I recently applied to homestead exception not too long ago, it doesn't clearly state there, like, do you just want to claim it for yourself or the other? Like, it's really hard to put it apart. Just ask you who are the other owners, and I think automatically it does it for you. So I think the person has to, now that they're listening to this podcast, mm-hmm. I think you have to go to the county and let them know specifically when you're filling this out that you want to only claim homestead for yourself. Because,
I live in Broward and I do have homestead on my property. And clearly, because I've lived here so long, I don't recall what the homestead application looks like. And I don't know if they ask how, to list the owners and the owners' addresses separately. And don't want to.
Right. So, but I did it 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Well, when I did it, I remember it just said to name the other owners. And I'm assuming it's automatically there. And this person was in Miami-Dade County. So I don't know. I will have to just go and look at my paperwork to see, or just maybe just go to the website and look at it.
I want to look.
Yeah, this is really interesting because by you telling me this, but if the thing doesn't give you the choice, or even if you just don't know that you have a choice, it's kind of hard to do.
Not only that, but it really, really is important because we've both been in title or in real estate a long time, and we can see trends and we can see things that are coming and going and coming back. And one thing that I see coming back is back in the day when it used to be mommy and daddy would be the silent partners of the kids buying their first property, and that's happening again. Mommy and daddy are their credit is needed. So when you have, let's just total example, newlyweds, Mr. and Mrs., son and daughter. And then we've got the parents that say, hey, we're going to go ahead and we're going to sign for your mortgage, but we don't want to be on the deed. And I'm going to give you a quick trick. Anybody who owns the property who's on the deed always has to sign the mortgage. If you're taking money out on my home, I need to sign a mortgage to say that I know you are. But anybody can give you money for your home. So you and I can go to the bank, and you, Betty, can co-sign my mortgage, and you can help me pay my bills, but you do not have to own my property. And
it's not the same as when you buy a car.
Exactly. And see, now the thing is that when they go and they file for their homestead, some people don't know that. So some people put mommy and daddy on the title as well. Mommy and daddy may have their own primary property. And if they're not further explored, when you have 4 people on title and you have homestead, that's 25%. Ooh, my fingers have.
The blurry takes out my ears.
I know, I look bald sometimes. But it is divided equally, unless the deed specifically states interest, which that just does not happen. So it is subject to explore.
No, this is really interesting. I love having these conversations with you. And I feel like every time I talk, I have even more questions. We're going to do this once a month, because I myself, I need to get educated more in this arena, because we don't deal with it much. We deal with it passing, right? And questions and closing and dates, and you owe me this, you owe me that, but we're not into the details, like the legalities that you already know. By the time we get it, you've already sorted all of this stuff out.
And sadly enough, this is most people's biggest purchase, and they're under the gun. They're making decisions, number one, with their hearts, number 2, with their fear, and they are making decisions that will affect them for so long that you take longer to choose a pair of shoes than you to make a decision when you're in this transaction, and you really need to give it more thought. I mean, the shoes are going to be out in the trash that you're going to own in the house, for the next 10 years.
Yes, and you're married to this person, but also to this house together. Yes. So that brings me to what we were saying at the beginning, the newlyweds trying to purchase a house. What advice do you have for them, going into this, and they themselves trying to figure their marriage, their new relationships out?
Well, I mean, newlyweds, we're going to assume that they're happy and that everything's going well. So once you're married, you are considered one. So anything you do from there, you are considered one. Once you purchase that property, you have 2 priorities. Take care of the property, take care of the marriage. Because if one goes south, so does the other.
Oh, wow. That is so, I don't know. It's true. It's true. I mean, because sometimes one person might want to keep the property, the other one might want to give it to them, but that one person by themselves are not going to be able to probably afford this property.
And more than likely, the property is going to be the largest asset that they own together, and they're considering going apart on their own. So everybody's going to want a piece of the pie. And even if you separate, very, very, very important, there is no legal separation in the state of Florida. If you are not fully divorced, if that marital settlement agreement has not been signed and filed, you are married. There is no other status. You're married or divorced. And
there's no in between. I'm in between divorce and marriage.
People say, but I'm going to get my divorce final next week. We'll do the closing today. No. Wrong order.
Get divorced first, then go close.
Don't do that. Mm-hmm. And there's 2 different attorneys that have practiced 2 different kinds of law, real estate and family, for that reason. But if the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, you can't be guided. And the questions that we don't ask because we don't know are the ones that haunt us the most.
Oh my God. It sounds like a scary movie, but it could be. So listen.
romantic comedy turns into a thriller, and then at the end, a horror. We don't know.
Angela, okay, so I have something else that you brought to me that I was not aware of. So I want you to elaborate. And this is about what's happening lately because of maybe the market situation, that tightening of the real estate lending or whatever it is. There's something that you've seen that's surged lately between purchases and HOAs. Could you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I'm definitely not aware about this, and I want to, because I want to be able to guide my clients.
So, and this is something that is coming back around. We spoke of trends and of things that, we've seen in the past. Right now, everybody's finances are tight. If your finances are tight, so are the banks. And we spoke of a contract. The moment we sign a contract, the reason that those dates are there, the reason it says that we have 3 days to do the first deposit, 10 days to do the next, 15 days to do the inspection. The reason why is because you're putting money out with each of those things. And if we don't give you a time frame to do so, you won't. Because what you would want everybody to work and get everything in line before you say, here, I'm going to put my money on it. So that's why we put this in writing and maintain time frames. Otherwise, we'd be sitting on contracts forever. Having said that, inspections and appraisals, those are things that the buyers have to come out of pocket with. The lenders are going to have them come out with that first, because the lenders first want to make sure that while they're processing and approving you as the person who's taking out the loan, that you're working towards getting the property approved. Two very different approvals. When you have a loan approval that needs to be provided by the bank to the seller in X amount of days, the lender's approving you, the borrower. And so once they've done their research, they'll give you that approval. Then you're going to go ahead and do the inspection and the appraisal. You're spending money. The lender is spending time. Usually, the lender will continue to process the property parallel to processing you as a person for your loan. Lately, because processing the property costs money, questionnaires to the HOAs, maybe doing whatever the lender has to send out for the insurance confirmations and verifications, those things are not free, and they may get reimbursed at closing, but that's money that the lender's putting out at will. If the file does not close, that money is gone. So the lender is now waiting till after the borrower is approved and the loan is in prime condition to close before they send that check out to get the final approval on the property. And that final approval, when there's an HOA involved, is so pivotal. We've gotten to the point in several transactions where the property is not approved until days before the closing, which is great.
Yeah, because the HOA takes a very, very long time to do any kind of paperwork here in Florida, which is...
Well, there are actual Florida statutes that protect you with that. For example, the HOA has 30 days to process a certificate of approval. So we may put in the contract, we're going to close in 2 weeks, but we don't own all the parts of that contract. And there are timeframes that are not in our control. And so that right there is one thing, the estoppel, 30 days. You can pay extra and rush fees, but if the lender is trying to save the money and not put the money out, and this is the last, cross of the T and dot of the I, it's great when it comes back approved. But oftentimes, I would say 1 or 2 out of 10 or 13, the property doesn't approve. So legally, contractually, the lender has given the approval for the borrower, and the borrower has gotten everything they needed to do by the time frame according to the contract. The lender's approval of the property is not discussed in the contract. And when they decide to send that check last minute to save the money, just in case anything else falls through beforehand, it is a risk. And we've had a number of loans not go through because the HOA doesn't have enough reserves, or they haven't done, a certain inspection. I know the 60-year inspections are becoming extremely important again because of what happened to the building a few years ago in Surfside. So as a borrower,
so that's what I was gonna say. So how can I help my client? How can we mitigate this?
As a borrower, I would ask them to ask specific questions, which is the property approved? It's a question just as before, funny enough that we would tie this in, you don't know to ask. And then you kick yourself for not knowing and not asking, so now, I've got my approval. Is my property approved?
Okay. So that would be something that I would advise my client, because usually they're the one that are having conversations with the lender.
And when we ask, do we have the clear to close? The lender may say, oh, well, we're waiting for this from underwriting. We're waiting for that. They may not all have the same term for what they're waiting for. But if they're waiting for something, is the property approved? It's a simple question, and it really puts their back against the wall. And unfortunately, they're probably not going to like the question because it's not one that people have enough knowledge to ask.
Exactly. Right. I didn't know that. I'm coming to you right now. I did not know that was a question to ask, because I would ask my client to ask this question, especially like I live in Doral. If you know anything about Doral and Weston, this is one of the cities that all of the neighborhoods have HOA. We only have one, except one neighborhood does not have HOA.
If you have a single family residence with no HOA, this conversation doesn't apply to you. However, find that, please let me know where you are, because in Florida, it just doesn't happen anymore.
Right. This is such good information, Angela. If we only did this podcast just for people to hear this, it was worth it, because people any new development coming up now have an HOA.
And truth be told, the lender's not putting their money out because they don't want to get caught with their pants down, for lack of a better way of saying it. But if you don't know any better, they're letting you do that. And
right. I understand why. I truly do understand why, because people don't want to do transactions to lose money.
Parallel. And they do usually, until we get to this point. And it's not fair to the consumer, to the borrower, that the lender changes their process and doesn't make it puts more risk and liability on their borrower, and it really should either be even or explained.
Right, exactly. Or maybe they say, well, we're not going to be able to do a 30-day close because they want to wait for the first 15 days, let's say 45-day close, the first 15 days to see that it passes inspection, that it appraises. So when they do send this order, they have the full 30 days or maybe a little bit more, more time to know.
And the thing is that, and I'm saying this treading carefully, because about real estate, about your trends. I know about my title work. If you're a lender and you're doing business and you've had 3 contracts from the same condo property association and it wasn't approved, then you should be able to tell your clients, don't do the appraisal and the inspection. Don't you spend your money. This property has failed 3 times. Mm-hmm. And so it is important to ask those kinds of questions. I mean, even as a real estate agent now, just off the top of my head thinking,
I do ask what I do when I have a client that try to buy a condo or anything of those sorts. I try to ask the agent. Sometimes even the seller's agents don't know if the association has the 40 years, or if they have all the funds. I do ask that, because I do deal with a lot of VAs that if they're not, they cannot do it anyway, and they have to be approved. So that is something that I would like to talk to my. Go ahead, Angela.
I've got a great question for you as an agent. You can ask the HOA, have you had any financed closings in the last 30 days, 90 days?
Any finance closing? Okay, that's a question.
Financed closing, then you're almost assured that the property has been approved because one lender has already closed there. If they no financed closings, well, then your ears should pop up and maybe you should do some research. But that's a great way to open the door to find out.
No, this is good tips, Angela. Thank you so much. Did you have anything else that come? Go ahead.
I hadn't even thought of it. I was looking at it through your eyes as an agent, and
No, but you know what? This is what they say. When you get into a room with gray minds, two minds come, and a third one will come out of questions that otherwise, if we were not having this conversation, would have never occurred. I learned that through Think and Grow Rich.
I love it. This, just like I always say, I feel so comfortable. I forget I'm even being recorded. We're just talking like I'm timing you.
You know why? Because you're the subject matter expert. This is what you know, and it's easy to talk. You don't have to think about it. You just know it. And guys, this is so important that you associate yourself with the real estate transactions. You really do have to pick your team. For example, I could recommend you title agents. I could recommend you inspectors. I could recommend you lenders. But at the end of the day, you yourself have to do your homework, because this is your choice. You need to feel comfortable that these people that you're doing transactions, also the same thing, you have to do homework in your real estate agent. The only thing that you don't have a say so is your appraiser. The lender does. But then everything else, just
Oh, no. I interrupted. Go ahead.
yeah, then everything else you choose. And don't get any agent to tell you, you have to use this lender, you have to use this inspector, you have to use this title company. No, these are just suggestions, because we know we're in the field, but this is for you to choose, because sometimes there's a quid pro quo there, and you don't want to be caught up in a situation where the only beneficiary are the people that are transacting and not yourself. You have to make sure you associate yourself with reputable people. And like Angela here, that she has a wealth of knowledge and experience in Miami. Miami, sad to say, it's a sketchy place to be. You have to have with people that know what they're doing, so that you know that you have a contract and you came into this transaction in good standing. So Angela, tell me anything else that you would like to get the public know, like right now.
Well, one thing I'm going to have to say is that you will have to be painfully honest with yourself during this process. Buying a house is like an awful therapy session. And I'll tell you why. Because I actually had an entire purchase fall apart at the table. When I say painfully honest, sometimes people know the truth but don't want to say the truth. And so we're sitting down at my closing, and I'm notarizing this loan package, and we're going over the marital status, and the lady says, oh yeah, well, I got married in Cuba, but that doesn't count here. And that was the end of the closing. So sometimes I felt like she said that because she felt like she had to tell somebody before everything was done. And she felt like she knew that was something she might have clarified prior to, but didn't want to hinder the process. And I take that and I also apply it to all the little things that happen in the closing. You don't want to make a rash decision based on your feelings. I can get up today and my son can spill his cereal and I can say, don't worry, baby, I got it. No big deal. I can get up tomorrow and my son can spill his cereal and I will feel like it's the end of the world. So if just that one example can show you that you might feel this way today, but crazy enough, you might wake up tomorrow and completely feel a different way. When you're making decisions like this, you've really got to dig deep and look at the long term, without the feelings, taking the emotions out of it. Because at the end of the day, it is a financial transaction and you want it to be to your benefit.
No, that is so well said, Angela. Thank you so much. I know we've said this before, but this may be the first time that the audience have found us here. How can people get a hold of you if they want to choose you as their title agent? Because remember, guys, this is the last thing that we do. Once we're filling out this contract, we're like, oh, who do you want to choose at the closing title office? And a lot of people, sometimes we just don't know. As an agent, when I became a new agent, I didn't know who to pick. I have to go myself and do my homework and then, try it that way. And it's the same thing with you. So if you do want to choose a title officer, Angela right here, she will be able to give the information. So please tell us how they can get a hold of you if they don't know who they need to choose for their closing transaction title officer.
Well, I like to say that you need a partner in your transaction. So I work with Partners Land Services, and you can reach me. My cell phone is actually the easiest way. It's 754-701-9075. And I'll spell out my email. It's really not difficult, but I always feel like emails are difficult. People want to be details. It's A Banegas. So A, B like boy, A, N like Nancy, EGAS at partnerslandservices.com.
There you have it. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in with us today. I'm sorry for the little leave of absence, but I am back. And Angela, you have to come once a month. We're gonna have to coordinate this because every time I live with this conversation, I have more and more questions. And I'm pretty sure in a month from now, I'm gonna have a ton more questions to ask you, and you're gonna come with cases to tell us. What were you gonna say?
Questions that they want to send in, little specific questions that I can give little answers to. Even if the answers I don't know, it's an answer and we can get something for you.
No, this is great. Yeah, give us your put your questions in the comments below, and probably when you come back next month, we might be able to pick one of your questions and answer them right here live. And thank you guys for tuning in. Again, this is Building Connections Doral Talks. See you next Thursday. Bye. Real quick, calling all Doral professionals, entrepreneurs, and community influencers. Are you ready to showcase your business, share your knowledge and experience with our engaged audience? Building Connections Doral Talks invites you to become a guest speaker on our podcast. Share your unique perspectives and inspiring stories with our listeners. We believe in the power of your voice in shaping the conversations right here in Doral. Click the link below to submit your information and be part of our next episode. Join us in building connections, sharing knowledge, and growing together. Don't miss this opportunity to be a featured guest on Building Connections Doral Talks. Tune in, connect, share, and grow together with Building Connections Doral Talks, reshaping the way we engage with the diverse voices of Doral, one guest at a time. Doral Talks, your voice, our community. Click the link now on the show notes, the screen, or in the comments below, or just scan the QR code to submit your information as a guest. I hope to see you soon. See you in the next podcast. Bye.